I never really know how to start these kind of videos. Like, I've been wanting to do them for quite some time, but I just wasn't sure how to go about it. But anyway, we'll try. Hi lovelies, my name is KamikazeKitten, and I have been wanting to do a little get ready with me for quite some time. I know you guys have been requesting it on my streams and things like that, so thank you very much. I have now plucked up the courage to eventually do one. I don't really know what to do while I was sitting here doing my makeup, because it's something that, you know, everyone seems to do these days, is talk about stories. As a lot of you know, I'm a true crime enthusiast. I'm a huge fan of multiple YouTubers who come on and, you know, tell stories of these cases. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I could do that as well, and I could maybe say my opinion on the matter. I mean, you know, it's just one of those things. I just think to myself, this is something that we can really discuss. You know, it's topics that we can all discuss, and I can get everybody's feedback on it. I can get everybody else's thoughts on the case as well. The case that we're going to be discussing today is a case that's quite well known now. Well, I feel that it's quite well known now. It was a documentary on Netflix called Evil Genius. This subject and this case just completely, it just blew my mind. Like, I just could not believe the amount of twists and turns in this documentary, and I just honestly, so short disclaimer, we are going to be discussing bombs, we're going to be discussing you know, rape, things like that, things that are going to make people feel uncomfortable. So if this isn't something that you want to hear about or see, close the video down. There will always be next week. So I am going to start. Now, all the products that I use is going to be listed down below. Again, all the products that I use are from places that you can easily get accessible to. I'm trying to do a beauty on a budget, so that there's people out there that can still get some pretty decent makeup, still go about and feel comfortable on their face. So I will list everything that I use down below, and let's get into today's story. So I just need to put face. There we go. Cute. Love it. Love that. And for those that do ask on stream, yes, I do foundation the side of my head. Don't ask. It's just something that I do. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about the case of the pizza bomber mystery. So I'm not going to be mentioning the name of the hostage, purely because after watching the documentary and seeing the family that's associated with the hostage, I felt really bad for them. I felt quite heartbroken for them. And I want to try and be as respectful as I can to this case, but I also want to tell the story. It's a long one, right? It is a long one. I'm going to try and simplify it as best I can. I'm going to try and not confuse anybody. Some of my facts might not all be there, because I want people to actually go and watch the documentary. Because the documentary, like I say, I think it's like six episodes, I think it is. So I want people to actually go make up their own mind, you know. But yeah, we're going to go ahead, and first of all, we're going to talk about a woman called Marjorie Dale Armstrong. Marjorie was born in February 1949 in Erie, Pennsylvania. She attended Gannon University in 1975, and she left with a master's degree in education. She was a really smart lady. Some would say that she was the prettiest woman in town. She was captivating. She was interesting. She also played in a musical orchestra. She played string instruments. And she was just someone who you were quite okay to be around. And she had quite a strange childhood growing up. She was very much on her own. She kind of grew too fast, I think, that's what the term would be. She grew up quickly, and you know, her family felt, you know, seeing that she was on her own a lot, and decided to build her a life-size doll's house for the neighbourhood kids to come and play, and, you know, eventually she wouldn't be on her own. So I thought that was quite nice on her parents' behalf. Marjorie suffered from a lot of multiple mental illnesses, including bipolar. At 23, she took herself to a therapist who, you know, had said that she'd admitted that she struggles to find and hold together relationships. She struggled to keep a relationship going. And she felt that that had a lot to do, she felt her mind was sick. She felt there was something wrong. She knew there was something wrong. And, going to see a therapist was something that not a lot of people did back then, because, if you were mentally ill in any kind of way, you were deemed as crazy. Like, that was it, you were crazy. But, I feel, do I feel that she did the right thing by trying to seek help? Probably. I mean, if you feel that there's something wrong with you and you feel sick, you go to a doctor. And, I believe that mental health is something that's, it's majorly important, But she tried to get help. She tried to get assistance with her mental health. She couldn't hold down a job. She eventually had let herself go. And she actually, she turned to one of her psychiatrists, and she actually sighed and she said, quote, "I used to be the prettiest girl in town," end quote. She really felt bad about herself. She wasn't herself, right? She had what we call hoarder tendencies. So her house used to be cram-packed full of stuff. And she also owned a classic car, which she didn't take very good care of, according to sources. And she tried. She made the best of life that she could on a day-to-day level. She had multiple lawsuits throughout her life, which she'd won. She'd sued a hospital for negligence when her husband had hit his head off of a coffee table and passed away. We're going to get into that in just a minute. When it comes to relationships with Marjorie, here's the thing. She already explained that she felt that she couldn't hold relationships together, and that's why she had to go and see someone, because she felt there was something wrong with her mind, and she knew there was something going on, and she couldn't quite figure out why this was happening. So, she sought help. She tried her best. In 1984, Marjorie was... Sorry, I couldn't quite figure out what was going on with my face there. Let me try that again. In 1984, she was arrested and put on trial for shooting her boyfriend 6 times when he was lying on the couch. She claimed self-defense because she claimed that he beat her, and she initially was filed not guilty, and she got off. That was it. She was no longer, a suspect. She was a case of, it was self-defense. She claimed self-defense, and that was it. Now, here's the thing with Marjorie. She was very smart. She was a manipulator. She knew exactly, what to say, what not to say. She knew exactly what it was that she was very, very, very smart. I mean, even when you watch the documentary, like, side note, okay, when you watch the documentary and you watch her demeanour and you watch how she is, when she's being questioned and all this kind of stuff, and when she's standing with the police as they're taking her, you can really see I want to say rage, but you can really see the gears going. Like, she's watching everything. She knows what she's doing, Now, I know you're sitting there thinking to yourself, what's this got to do with the pizza bomber mystery, Cami? Get to the point. Okay, I will get to the point. So, this heist. Okay, so, again, my dates aren't 100% accurate. I am not going to be mentioning the hostage's name, purely out of respect. But in Erie, there is a bank called PNC Bank, and there was a robbery that had taken place. Now, the hostage, the reason why I call them the hostage is because they claim to have been set up. Now, again, when I say claim to have been set up, because that's what the the accusation was. The man had walked into the bank with a cane gun and he had a bomb strapped to his neck. He handed the teller a note and it stated on the note that they wanted $250,000. He left with less than $9,000. It's a small bank. It's not a bank that's going to be holding that kind of money. So he leaves and the bank tellers call the police, make them aware of it straight away, and they initially find, they find the person who robbed the bank, literally, like, I'm going to say down the road, round the corner, to driving out of Everglass store. I'm sure that's what it's called. I really should have written that down, so I do apologise, my facts aren't 100% there. But they had taken him out of the car, they had sat him down on the road, they had handcuffed him, and when he claimed to have a bomb on his neck, the police approached. They'd taken some small scissors and they had cut the t-shirt that he was wearing, because he wore this white t-shirt that was over the contraption that was on his chest. They had cut the t-shirt and they had revealed that in fact there was a device on his chest. Now, police backed away. They called the bomb squad. Unfortunately, the bomb squad was too far away to make it on time. They had shut off the streets, and in all honesty, after watching the footage, the gentleman was cooperating with the police. He had asked to have his handcuffs removed. You can clearly see from how he's sitting that he's uncomfortable. You can clearly see that he's not in a comfortable position at all. He is conscious of the time. He's running out of time. He's having this urgency that he needs to. Somebody needs to go get the keys. There's an urgency here, and from what I can see, the police weren't doing very much except just watching him. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, the bomb squad are on their way, but nobody's like, that he's cooperating with you guys, So it's an unfortunate situation, because unfortunately the bomb did go off eventually. And it was such a sad piece of footage to watch. Like, when I was watching this footage, I actually felt really uncomfortable watching it. I felt like I just wanted to help that man that was sitting there. And I know that, everybody has different opinions on the matter. People think that he was part of it. Personally, I don't think he was part of it, right? And I will tell you why the further we go into this story, okay? So, police, unfortunately, this gentleman had passed away. The police approach his car and start searching his car. They find 9 pages of instructions and the cane gun. The cane gun was loaded, but they were unsure whether it was actually going to fire or not. They had to test all that, like they always do. They found the set of instructions. Now, these instructions, right, they're so crazy, because when you get to actually see the instructions and the way they're written and the way that they're described, the way everything's put down, even the letter, because there was a letter, instructions for police, there was instructions for the bank teller, and you would think when you hand over a note to the bank teller it would just say give me the money. No, this had proper full-blown instructions on it. It was absolutely, it's so mad. He was to, basically the way the letter and the instructions was supposed to say is that he was supposed to go to the bank, collect the money, and then go to these different locations, A, B, C, and D, and he was to collect the keys for each of the compartments on the bomb. Now, when police had stopped the hostage, you could see the urgency. You can see that he's like, can someone please go and get these keys? He's cooperating with the police. He's really trying to plead with them to go get these keys. And for some reason, nobody did. They sent some uniform officers down to go and speak to the pizza place where the gentleman worked. What? Like, how's that going to help? I don't know. I don't know. Like, people are weird. I don't know. I just... this case frustrates me sometimes because the further that we go into the case, the more I'm like, really? You didn't see that before? Really? So, anyway, let me describe the collar now. So the collar was basically like a giant handcuff. There are images of the collar online. I'm not going to post them on here because it's not something I want people to see on here. So if you're really curious and you're a curious cat like me, then you can go ahead and you can search that yourself, or you can watch the documentary. The documentary has absolutely everything that you need to make up your own mind. But the collar basically was like a giant handcuff, and it clicked round. So basically, essentially like a set of handcuffs, clicked round the neck, and it was a rectangular box that sat on his chest. Now, the bomb had contained a fake cell phone, 2 pipe bombs, egg timers, and a whole bunch of wires and instructions. The instructions were believed to be decoys, so that the bomb squad couldn't tamper with it, and it would throw them off because there was wires there that didn't mean anything. There was wires on it that didn't, they weren't even active. They were just there, I think, for show, So the hinged collar essentially was locked with these 4 sets of keys. Now, it was later discovered that the key locks, only 2 of them, the keys would have worked. So even if they got 2 of the keys, they could have opened it. But then again, on the rectangular box, on the instructions, it said that they were booby-trapped. So you don't actually know what keyhole was safe. The instructions are there. There were, even the letter with the instructions of what this hostage had to do, there were ramblings a lot of the time. And I'm sitting thinking to myself, when I was watching this, right, side note, when I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, who has the time, right? If you have 55 minutes to get to these locations and get this off your neck, how the hell do you have time to sit there and read through those letters to make sure you're doing everything correctly? How? You don't. I'm sorry, but that amount of pages, and then while you're panicking, you essentially have this state of panic. It annoys me. This case annoys me. Why did I choose to do this case? It really does irritate me. And I just dropped my concealer, so allow me a moment. Sorry. So anyway, police had decided later on that they would essentially follow the scavenger hunt. They would use the same day. So, for example, I believe it was a Tuesday, but don't quote me on that one. But they would use the same day, the same time, and the same weather conditions of that day, and they would attempt to do the scavenger hunt on the times that it says on the letter. And they managed to find some evidence at each of the sections where the hostage was supposed to go, but they also timed it so that, they timed it and it was impossible for the hostage to finish the hunt without that device going off. Now, apparently, if you pulled a certain, there was like a little lock, and if you pulled it, it would give them an extra hour. But nobody essentially knew that. I don't even think the hostage knew that. But yeah, the police had went round the scavenger hunt, and they were like, it's impossible. It's completely impossible to complete this in the time given by, the people involved. Like, I wouldn't even know what you call them. Would you say captors? Captors? Is that even the right word? Sorry, I'm slightly dyslexic. I'm not really too sure what the word is. And I don't even say things properly, so I do apologise on that front. But anyway, there was absolutely no way that he would have been able to complete this on time. Now, this is where we go back to Marjorie Deal. Marjorie had a friend of hers that she'd known for nearly 40 years. About 35 to 40 years she'd known this person. And his name is Bill Rothstein. Now, Bill was also an intelligent man. He was born in January 1944. He was part of a group called the Fractal Intellectuals. And these are for people who are intelligent, but they can't really mingle with society. Maybe, I don't know. And his name is Bill Rothstein. Now, Bill was also an intelligent man. He was born in January 1944. He was part of a group called the Fractal Intellectuals. And these are for people who are intelligent, but they can't really mingle with society. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they feel they're too smart for the room, they don't really fit in anywhere, they're quite isolated, So he essentially, he ran this group. It was said that he ran this group anyway. And Bill was known as a handyman. He was known as a part-time teacher, but he was also known as a non-finisher. So basically, a non-finisher is someone who starts things and doesn't see it through, all right? So he went through to do his pilot license. He even went to college, but again, he never finished college. He went ahead and done all these things, and he would move on to the next thing. A friend of his said that he would go so far and then he would just move on to the next thing. He would never ever finish what he'd started. And, could you imagine this guy actually, went and got his pilot license and done what he wanted to do? Like, how things could be different, It's just such a strange thing. But then again, that's my opinion. I mean, shut up, Cammy. Like, just shut up, Cammy. Nobody's interested. But anyway, so yeah, 3 weeks after the heist had happened, right? So this is 3 weeks later. The hostage is, unfortunately, it makes you sick to your stomach. He's passed away, and police are investigating. But this Bill Rothstein, he calls the police 3 weeks after the heist, and he calls them and he says that he wants to report the fact that there is a body in a freezer in his garage, right? So this body has been lying in this freezer, right? Now, at the time, we were not sure how long, right? I tried to figure out how long he'd been in the freezer for. We reckon it's about 3 weeks. From what I'm reading, it's about 3 weeks. But again, I can't be 100% sure. Because you'll find that Bill is also, not only is he a crafty little bitch, but he is also a bit of a manipulator. He played police something crazy. He just, the way this case was, it was crazy, right? So basically, anyway, but Cammy, you're rambling, right? Back to the freezer. So he explains how he knows Marjorie, and he claims that Marjorie had killed her boyfriend and essentially wanted him to get rid of the body. So he said that he was scared of Marjorie and that he just went along with what he said. He was trying to stall time. He was trying to stall and by going to get supplies and all this kind of stuff. And he claimed that she wanted to get rid of him, and, go buy things like a commercial meat grinder, and essentially, cut the body up and make it disappear. That's essentially what he was told by her, right? So, Marjorie was arrested. She was arrested. Police arrived at the house where Bill had stated where she was, and Marjorie was arrested. She was ranting and raving. She was, telling them to get out of her house. She was, she claimed that he was a filthy liar and that he was making up all these lies, and that Bill had a fit of jealousy and he was the one that killed this man. Now, this man is known as James Roden, or Jim for short. And Marjorie had claimed to love Jim. They had been together for 10 years, and she really did love this man, and she had no reason to hurt him, Jim was known as a timid man who basically he kind of just went along with everything that Marge had said and done, and it's a strange one because, even when you watch the documentary and you see his image, when his image does pop up, you're thinking to yourself, yeah, you could see that. You could 100% see that. So anyway, as the investigation is going on about Jim, police are starting to think to themselves, do you think this is connected to, the pizza bomber case? And higher ups were like, no, this is not connected. This is a completely different thing. And they're like, I don't know about that, because I think it was a few days after the pizza bombing incident, the colleague of the hostage had passed away due to an overdose. Now, apparently that man was supposed to be going to the police for information, and he was worried that the people involved in the bombing were coming after him. So he wanted to speak to police, and police had confirmed that, yeah, you can come down and speak to us. And he had to cancel and move it to the Monday because he had to work or something. I can't actually remember the full reason why he had to cancel, but he couldn't make it anyway, right? So he cancelled, and then he ends up dead. He never makes it to the Monday. So everybody found it strange how it was under, mysterious circumstances. And obviously 3 weeks later, the body in the freezer appears, and police are sitting there thinking, that's 3 murders, 3 bodies. Well, when I say murder, when it comes to the colleague, I don't really know if it was, because they're saying it's an overdose, but I don't know, that case is a bit strange as well. But that's 3 bodies in 3 weeks. Surely something's got to give on that one. Something's got to be connected. And higher ups are like, no, they're not connected. Freaking stupid. It's stupid. It is stupid, and I'm sorry. Like, I'm getting annoyed now. I really should have chosen another case. All the cases are probably going to annoy me. But anyway, so they're going ahead and they bring Marjorie in for questioning. They end up putting her actually in jail for this case. And as they're taking her out of the trial, she's shouting about how Bill is part of the pizza bombing case, and that they should be looking into him. They're looking at the wrong person, that she's going to sue him. She had a thing for suing people, Marjorie. She had a massive thing for suing people. And, I guess, what do you do when you're being sentenced, to something that you might have potentially not done, and you're claiming you're innocent, but what if she was? Who knows? Now, the thing with Bill, right, you're thinking to yourself, well, Bill is, the freezer was actually in his premises, right? So you're thinking, well, what happened to Bill? Bill was really cooperative with the police. He gave tours at the crime scene. He was very convincing. He was a master manipulator. Again, he is very intelligent. And he actually turned around to one of the FBI agents and said, quote, "I just want to let you know that I'm the smartest guy in the room," end quote. And, the FBI was like, cool with me, buddy. He was just like, okay, this is his day job, so he's used to people like that. But the thing was with Bill was that he was in a family feud when it comes, he had quite a strange personal life as well. He was in the middle of a family feud, right? And again, guys, I'm really sorry. This case is really all over the place, and I am doing my best to simplify it as best I possibly can. So, I really am sorry. I'm doing my best here, and I'm also trying to do my face, and it's not working out the way I want it to work out, because I'm looking at the camera, and it just looks like my face is all the one colour. So I'm really sorry. But anyway, back to the story. So Bill was part of a family feud at the time. So he had lived rent-free in his parents' house for 50 years, and his family wanted him to sell the house, you know, they wanted to try and make some money off it. I don't know, right? But he decided to put it on the market, and he told his family that he put it on the market for £90,000. £90,000. What? $90,000 that he placed it on for. And, you know, they believed him, whatever. But he actually turned to the estate agent and he said that he wanted $250,000 and he did not want a penny less. The estate agent told him that that was a bit high. You know, you sure you don't want to come down a little bit? Because the house wasn't exactly in great condition. I mean, the interesting thing about Marjorie and Bill was the fact that they were both hoarders. You know, highly intelligent people who just hoarded things. They kept things. They, you know, I'm not saying that everybody who's highly intelligent are a hoarder, by the way. So nobody come for me in the comments in that sense. But it's just interesting to me how the both of them are so, you know, they are really intellect people. And let me try that again. They're very highly intellectual people, but they hoard things, like, a lot, you know. So that really fascinated me. You know, it's part of the mental state and the mental kind of psychology behind it. I don't know. It fascinated me, okay? There's not really much more I can say on that front, and I have no idea what's going on with these eyes, but we're gonna keep going because I think it'll work out in the end. It always does. I always get worried when I do my face, and I do something, and then it always works out in the end. But anyway, so Bill gives the police a full tour of the crime scene, and as they're writing their notes and making diagrams, he's actually pointing, well, actually no, it was at this angle, and he's pointing, he's showing them everything. He's cooperating, and he actually got a reduced sentence for abuse of a corpse because he cooperated so much. And he actually, you see him in the documentary turning around and going, does anybody get any more questions? You know, it's like he's loving this attention that he's getting, you know. He's the teacher of the class, and he's like, you know, has anybody got any more questions? Anything at all? Sir? Yes? You? Right? Like, that's what he's like. Like, and when you're watching him, you're thinking to yourself, what the hell is he doing? Like, why is he being so cooperative? That never really made sense to me when it came to the relationship between Bill and Marjorie, because he apparently was very fascinated with this woman. Now, let me take you back. So, Marjorie and Bill dated for a short time. They would split up. He put an ad out on the paper, an attempt, like a romantic gesture kind of type, to try and get her back. They eventually go back together, and then they eventually split up again. They were briefly engaged, and apparently Marjorie broke Bill's heart. You know, we don't know what happened in terms of how, you know, it's as if she got into his noggin, do you know what I mean? And he just needed her, he loved her. And I do strongly believe that he did. I don't know what's going on, sorry. I truly believe that he did truly love Marge. Now, when Jim was killed, when Jim Roden, the guy in the freezer, when he was killed, Marge was claiming that Bill was, you know, a raging jealous person and didn't want anyone else to have her. So in order for Bill and Marge to be happy, Jim had to be out of the picture, and it was Bill that killed Jim. Now, she stood by this for pretty much, you know, the whole time, you know. She was like, no, you know, I didn't do this, I'm being framed, I'm a very smart woman, I have my own money, there's no reason for me to do this. You know, she really did stand by the fact that it wasn't her that killed Jim. So anyway, she was so angry with Bill. I think because they'd known each other for such a long time as well, and they know each other inside and out pretty much. And then all of a sudden she's being set up. Like, of course she's angry. It happens. Marjorie also had a friend. And again, I'm going to throw a bunch of names at you here, okay? And I am doing my best for everybody to understand what it is that I'm talking about. I promise I'm doing my best. And I promise that next week I will pick a simpler case. Because I want everybody to, you know, I want to do a good job, right? I want to be a professional. Let's remain professional, Cami. That's what we're here for. We're trying our best. We're trying our best. Anyway, so the next person who's involved within the story is a man called Ken Barnes. Ken Barnes was born in 1954. He was a crack dealer and he was also a retired TV repairman. He was also the fishing buddy of Marjorie. They used to go and fish for catfish late at night. And yeah, they'd known each other for about 9 years. And Marjorie was, you know, she was very out there. She always had her stories, you know. I think that was part of her mental illness as well. Like, she just told stories. So when it came to the relationship between her and Ken, you know, she was telling Ken about how Marjorie was absolutely furious with PNC Bank because they had gave her father access to some deposit box where it had Marjorie's belongings in it, and he'd emptied the bank, he'd emptied the deposit box, and basically that she wanted her dad dead, okay? And, you know, she turned to Ken and said, you know, would you kill my dad? And according to Ken, you know, his response, you know, he said he was just playing with her and he was like, yeah, sure, I'd do it. She went, well, how much would you do it for? And he said, oh, I'd do it for $250,000. Okay? And he said, but I want $100,000 up front. You know, he said that he was playing with her to see if she actually did come up with the money. It wasn't clear whether she did come up with the money or not. It was never really brought forward or clear if she ever did. But according to Ken, he was playing with her. And, you know, he wasn't going to kill anybody because he cries when someone shoots a deer. He'll eat the venison, but he just doesn't want to see the animal hurt. Okay, cool, but you sell crack to people? Alright, cool story, bro. I mean, imagine being a drug dealer and being like, oh, but I wouldn't murder anyone. Really, Ken? Really? But anyway, back to the story. So, they were fishing buddies, okay? And the police always did ask, you know, do you know anything about, you know, the bombing? Do you know about this? Do you know about that? And they'd always deny. They would deny absolutely everything. But it got to a stage where, you know, Ken eventually was arrested. I can't remember what the charge was that he was arrested for, but he was eventually arrested. And he spoke to the person who produced the documentary. His name is Trey. Now, he does have a second name, but I'm not going to butcher it because I really like the guy. I've grew to really like this guy, and I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm not going to say his surname, but you'll see him in the documentary if you do decide to watch it, gang. And I really do hope that you do. But Trey had, you know, tried reaching out to Bill, had tried reaching out to Ken. Bill refused point blank to be interviewed for the documentary. And, you know, as Trey is sitting outside in his car, he notices a blue van. Now, according to police, a blue van had approached the scavenger point. I believe it was the last kind of area of the scavenger hunt. And the blue van was there. And according to one of the lieutenants, that van had always bothered him because it was there and then it was gone. And according to Marjorie, Bill had got the blue van towed and then brought back once he was cleared by FBI. Why would you get a van towed if you're not part of anything? You claim to not be part of any kind of, you know, heist or anything, but why are you then all of a sudden, if you've got nothing to hide, you wouldn't be moving things, you know what I mean? And plus, Bill's a crafty little bitch, and so is Ken by the sounds of it, because when police done a search on Ken's house, which again was another hoarder's paradise, Ken was a hoarder as well. And, you know, they weren't sure whether, the police actually weren't sure whether they were standing on the floor or whether they were standing on more junk. The place was a mess. Ken had 2 dogs, which unfortunately, short disclaimer for this one, the animals did have to get put down, so I do apologise, okay, but they had to get put down purely because the house is such a mess. You know, you can imagine what the animals were like. Like, if you're going to keep pets, side note, if you're going to keep pets, clean your damn house. You know what I mean? It's not hard. They need to live there too. If you want to live in your own shit, then that's up to you, but, you know, don't let the poor animals suffer. It's just not fair. But anyway, back to the story. So, police go ahead and they search the house, and they couldn't find anything to do with, you know, the pizza bombing case. They couldn't find anything. However, they did make a discovery of a ton of magazines for, you know, that gives you instructions and things like that on how to build explosive devices. Now, this is where the case really got to me, okay? Because as the police are going through Ken's house, they're videoing this, right? So that's what they do. They video the area. They did the same thing with Bill's house, right? As Bill's taking them through, they're video recording everything, and you can watch it on the documentary. It's all there. And, you know, as they're bringing the camera around, they're moving it up and down, and they're getting every inch of each room, okay? And they actually bypass a piece of paper with arrows. It's like a rectangle, and then there's arrows coming round. And as the investigators are watching this video back, the gentleman said, I recognise those arrows and I recognise that photo. Where have I seen that before? So they go back and they have a look at the device photos. Now, when they have the device photos, the device had arrows all the way around. Like, it must be like little where the wires are going and stuff, but there was arrows drawn places. I think it was again to try and throw off if anybody was to try and tamper with the device. It was to try and throw them off. Who knows? Because like it said on the box, it's booby trapped. You know, it's to try and stop people from going ahead and tampering. So when investigators see that, they're like, well, hold on a minute. That's a match. You know, they couldn't match the handwriting on the letters, the 9-page instruction letters. They believed that it was typed on a typewriter and then retraced. And the reason that they think that is because the margins are the same, the text is the same, everything was the same. So it was clearly typed and it was clearly rewritten, you know, in order for to be no trace of handwriting. Now, Bill's best friend was also interviewed during the documentary, and there was a note underneath the instructions, and you can see like there's obviously it's been written over something or whatever, and you know they're tracing it out, and you can see there's another version of handwriting, but again the police couldn't figure it out. So when Trey, the person that sorted the documentary, I'm sorry, I got a big fright, my cat is scratching the door. Anyway, they managed to get the copy of the writing, and the best friend actually confirms that is Bill's writing. I'm sorry, my cat wants in and she's not getting in. She keeps like trying to destroy my makeup and I'm just not having it. Now, anyway, yeah, so back to the story. So the best friend actually said, well, actually, I've known this guy for 40 years. I'm telling you right now, that is his writing. You know, he's like, I can't believe it. You know, I've been friends with this guy, and he, you know, I don't even know my own best friend. So you can tell in the documentary that he's really gutted. You can tell that he's upset, and you can tell that, you know, he doesn't want to believe that it has his best friend. He doesn't want to believe it. You can see it in his face. You just... honestly, like, this case it's so confusing and it's so all over the place. I'm trying my best to explain it, okay, as best I can. So I do apologise. This is a bit of a long one, guys. I'm really sorry. So, when Marge was taken away after the trial and her sentencing, and she's sitting there and she's shouting about how, Bill is part of the pizza bomber case and he needs to be looked at, surprise, surprise, nobody actually looked into that. Nobody looked into that statement. They probably thought, side note, that because she is mentally ill, that they're not going to take her seriously. That's what I personally think. I think that is what they thought of her. They thought, you know what, this woman's a little bit crazy, she's a little bit mad, we're not going to believe her. We're not going to take everything that she says as gospel. Which is annoying because they could have looked into it. I mean, 3 bodies in 3 weeks. They even said that was strange. Why didn't they look into it? Is it because of the fact that she was mentally ill? I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's really annoying because I would like to think that they would have at least tried to look into it or get some form of information out of her. But yeah, she's sitting shouting and bawling about that. Now, when Trey started being in touch with Marjorie, he was in between jobs at the time and the case was really bothering him, and he decided that he was going to take a trip out to Erie and he was going to do his own little investigation, and that is why he came up with the Evil Genius documentary. Again, it's a fantastic documentary. It is on Netflix. I would highly recommend that you go give it a watch. But he has conversations with Marge and he has letters back and forth with Marge. Not only does they show the letters, but they actually listen to the recordings of the phone calls. He always walked about with like this kind of fanny pack, and it contained a voice recorder inside, and so it was able, so that when he was on the phone and he had his headphone in, that he could easily hear everything. You can hear both sides of the conversation. Now, Trey had said to her, tell me about this blue van. And she's like, oh, I thought I told you about that. Well, let me tell you. And she just starts spilling all the tea. And she just starts saying, about how Bill had drove around in that van. He got it towed. And then as soon as he was cleared by the police, that he got it towed back. And she believes that van was connected because she believes that Bill was the mastermind behind this this case. Because she's sitting there and she's like, everybody thinks I'm the mastermind and everybody thinks I've done this. She went, I'm a very smart woman. I have ways of making money and I'm certainly not going to pay someone to go kill my own dad because I would do it for free. That is what she said, right? That is what she said in her interviews. She was always very angry about it, and she always still claimed her innocence. Bill was believed to have built the bomb, because again, he was crafty. He was a handyman. He knew what he was doing. Again, I'm not saying all handymen who are crafty little bitches do things like this, but he was very crafty. According to Marge, Bill had this dark ego, like a dark personality, and she felt that, he was very capable of doing something like this. Now, according to Ben? Who's Ben? Who's Ben? Ken. According to Ken Barnes, that's the one. According to Ken, they were, well, eventually, at the end of the documentary, his story kind of falls apart. His story falls apart big time because everybody keeps saying that the hostage was involved. The hostage was part of it. He knew what was going on, and all this kind of thing, right? I don't believe that. I don't believe that you would be more than willing to strap something to your body and go, I don't believe that. I'm sorry, but no, sir, I don't believe you. No, shut up. Nobody believes you. Shut up. Okay, that's how I feel about that. But anyway, so according to Ken, it was a plan. They were all willing to do it. They were all, what is going on with this? Like, I look crazy right now. This camera's terrible. I really do look crazy. My makeup is so trash today. I'm really sorry. But anyway, yeah, so he believes that it was all Marge's idea. Ken believes that it was all Marge's idea because she needed the money in order to get rid of her dad. However, Bill also needed the money to get out of his debt with his family because he couldn't get the house sold for 250k. It's not going to happen. Like, he needed that money to clear up his family's affairs. Now, while Marge was in prison, she did befriend a few people, although people did try and kind of stay away from her. She was, she would stand, inmates would say that she would stand in front of the mirror and shave her eyebrows for hours. And when you shave your eyebrows, you just need to do, and that's it. No, she would stand in the mirror and she would do it for hours and hours. And the inmates believed that she was doing that because it would show the guards that she was insane. And, there was one face for the guards and there was one face for the inmates, and that's how they seen her. Now, an inmate who was in the same penitentiary as Marge had sat down and, had wrote down all these notes, and Marge started telling the pizza bomber mystery. And this is where she believes that she is actually part of this case. She made the inmates feel uncomfortable. She was saying how the hostage was part of it because she said, and I quote, "It's not like we didn't fit his neck for the damn collar," end quote. And one of the inmates was so uncomfortable with that statement that she removed herself from the table. She removed herself. And the woman who was taking the notes, her name was Kelly, she had walked up to the other inmate and asked if she was okay, and she said, yeah. And she went, "Did you hear what she just said?" And the inmate said, "Yes, and I don't want to know anymore." That's the inmate didn't want to know. She was sick to her stomach, and I get it, everybody's in prison. Sorry, I had to let the cat in because she was scraping the door, and I don't know how this video is going to turn out. My makeup's already terrible, so I'm trying not to make any more fuck ups on this, so I do apologise. Anyway, back to the story. So, I get that people are in prison for different things, like people, but, the whole point of prison, I believe, is so that you can actually get some time to think about what you've done, think about your actions, really, just really have some remorse for your actions, And I think that these people who were with Marge, I think that maybe helped her. I think that helped them as people, because they're sitting there and they're thinking, well, how sick can you be, So according to Kelly, she tried giving these letters over and these notes. She collated her notes as best as possible. She tried to give them to the police. Now, the police, unfortunately, surprise, surprise, they placed these notes in a file called snitch letters. Snitch letters. Now, according to other police, they had discovered, they got the letters eventually, but they'd actually admitted in the documentary, if we'd have had these sooner, we could have actually used these, So I don't know what happened to the police who put them away in the snitch letter file. I'm not sure what happened to those police, but if it was me, I would have them punished. Why would you have a folder called snitch letters? Why? They're trying to help out with a case, that destroyed a family. Like, what's wrong with you people? This case makes me so mad sometimes. Like, do I feel that they did enough sometimes? No, I don't. I genuinely don't. Like, the more I watch it, the more I read about it, the more I think to myself, the evidence is right there. And I'm not a qualified policewoman. I'm not a qualified investigator. But come on. It's no hard. Anyway. I just sit there and I think, it's not hard. It's really not hard. I'm sorry, there's something in my eye. There we go. Anyway, so eventually they manage to link the heist with the Rodin case because Ken Barnes, who was in prison at the time, said that Jim Roden was supposed to be the getaway driver for the heist. That is what was claimed. And he decided he didn't want to do that. He didn't like where this heist was going. He didn't like, the ins and outs of it. And he wanted to go to the police. So he was told that he was killed because of that. And, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. The guy was timid. The guy was basically a puppet on a string. And he essentially was murdered because he was going to do the right thing and, expose the heist. And I felt really, really bad when I watched that part because I thought to myself, he looks like a nice guy. You know what I mean? And I think he was just caught up with the wrong woman. I think maybe that's what happened. That's just my theory on it. I believe that Jim wasn't involved in that sense. They were trying to make him involved, and because, he didn't want to do it, he essentially was shot for it. And just, it really does sicken your stomach, doesn't it? Like, it's just, how can you claim to love someone that you shoot? Doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense. But yeah, so he has essentially died because, I'm sorry, my cat is all over the place. I'm really sorry. She keeps trying to get up and it's just not happening. But yeah, so he essentially was murdered because he didn't want to be part of something. Like, that's just so sad. It's so sad. And I don't know, guys. I don't know. But anyway, so eventually, when everything came out about what was happening, Ken had claimed that the hostage was brought out because he was delivering pizzas. Now, when the call was made to the pizza shop, the person who answered the phone, when the call was initially placed to the pizza place, the person that answered the phone couldn't make out the caller. So the hostage had taken the phone, written down his own instructions as to where he needed to go because he could understand the person, and he'd taken the pizza, or the pizzas, to that location. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to... I forgot this was a double mirror. He takes it to the location and he waits to be paid. Now, this is the thing. If you're part of this, why would you wait to be paid for pizzas if you knew what's going to be happening that day? You wouldn't. You wouldn't wait to be paid. Why would you wait? It doesn't make sense. No, shut up. Doesn't make sense. I'm not having it. Not interested. But anyway, he waits to be paid, and then next thing we know, someone brings, I can't determine quite who, because the story is so all over the place. I'm not going to mention names about who brought the collar around, because I'm not even sure if I believe it. But the collar was brought round. Marjorie, Ken and Bill, all three were there, but there was also another man who was there. But again, police had essentially written him off because he passed the lie detector. So because he passed the lie detector, they written him off. But they believe, according to what's been told, this person had brought the bomb round. The hostage's face went like scared, his eyes went wide, and he tried to run away, to the point where Ken grabs the hostage, punches him in the mouth, and then tells him to stop being such a little pussy. That's what he says to him. And apparently the collar goes on him. Marjorie had put the t-shirt over the top of the collar, and Bill had handed the hostage the weapon and said, if you have any trouble, use this. And away they went. He left, and the person who put the collar onto the hostage said that he was walking away from that scenario, and he said he couldn't help but feel that he was going to be shot in the back. And he said that he had made peace with that because he was someone who was a rapist on a rape charge, and, you know, he was a horrible human being, and if he got shot, he wasn't even bothered about it. That was his kind of thought process, which I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that. You know, I get it. You're an absolute piece of shit who thinks it's okay to do that to someone, but at the same time, you know, you're walking away from this group gathering and you have a feeling that someone's going to shoot your back, but you're too terrified to turn round. That's a feeling within itself, you know what I mean? That's really something. Now, this person who is connected with the hostage and Ken, okay, now remember Ken was a crack dealer, okay, so he also, apparently, he hired out, I don't want to say the word, we're going to call them sex workers, okay, because I want to be respectful in this matter. He was hiring out sex workers as well, and they would come to him for drugs, you know, because that's just what, I don't know, that's just what people do sometimes, it happens. Now, according to Ken needed somebody who was easy to, you know, bring along, a pushover, you know. And this sex worker had claimed to have known someone who apparently she cares about. Again, you can see her interview in the documentary. I don't know how much of her story I believe. I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure whether to believe her, because she was high all the time. She said that she get paid for it. She get paid like $5,000 or something. And because she was paid for it, she ended up getting high for so many days at a time. So because, you know, she was paid and whatever else, she went away, she got high, she never thought anything of it, and then before she knew it, it was done. And that's the thing. That's the thing about these cases, right? The thing about these cases that really get me, like, I get it, she's an addict. I do get it, okay? Addiction can really destroy someone, you know? And when you're desperate for money and for drugs, you'll do anything, you know? That's just how it is. My lipstick keeps getting on my teeth. I'm not sure if I like this lipstick, but we're going with it. This is the look that we're going with, chat. Okay? But anyway, she is interviewed by Trey, who is the producer of the documentary, as we've already specified a million times. Cami, shut up. Shut up, Cami. Trey interviews this woman. Her name is Jessica. She interviews this woman, and she said that she brought the hostage into the home. They had a quick look at him. She nodded, and then she left. And she took that man away. She took the hostage away, so she essentially took him there. And, you know, you can see in the interview that she is just absolutely devastated. She realises what it is that she's done. She realises that she essentially led him there. She realises that. And do I feel bad for her? I don't know. I don't know is my honest answer. I really honestly don't know whether I do, you know, feel that she should feel, that you should feel sorry for her. I don't think so, because you essentially led that person to their death, you know. And this is what makes me think that the hostage had nothing to do with this heist, because if they had something to do with it, then it wouldn't be a case of having a little look, looking at the person up and down and taking them away. He would know exactly why he was there. So again, that doesn't make sense. So again, no, doesn't make sense. Nay, I say, according to Bailey. Does not make sense. Yes, I did just quote Bailey. Don't sue me. So, let me just do a quick recap. Okay? So, Marjorie's in prison. Ken is in prison. Where's Bill? Bill passed away. He passed away. Now, when investigators found out that Bill was in the hospital, they went there and they asked him and they pleaded with him and they said to him, can you just tell us, were you involved with this case? And apparently, he sat there and he done this. Hold on, I'm trying to... That's what he did. He did a big no, right? He drew out a no and he claimed to not have anything to do with the case. Even on his deathbed, he wouldn't give anything up. And that's just crazy to me, how, you know, there's people that are dead. There's somebody in jail. He's essentially got away with it. He's got away with this, you know. He's got away. He's not... It's crazy to me, chat, how he got away with it. He passed away. You know, it really, really annoyed me because everything was pointing to him. And nobody had the brass balls to just go, do you know what? We know that you're involved in this. Sir. Okay, we know that you're involved in this. Nobody had the brass neck to turn around and actually just say to him, you know. And the fact that Marjorie, I do believe that she was part of it. She still claimed her innocence until her dying day. Marjorie died of breast cancer. And, you know, Bill died, I think it was lymphoma he died of. I can't be quite sure. Are on the hostage's neck. I don't really have a background as to too much about what he's doing. I know he's still alive and he's remarried and all this kind of stuff. But he actually refused any interviews to do with Trey in his documentary, which again is quite sad because I think it would have been good to get his side of the story out. It would have been good to, you know, actually, I don't know, I do think that all of these people were involved. I believe he had the key and the answers to this case, and if he'd have just you know, done the interview, we could have easily made our own opinions. I don't know. Just, I feel bad. I feel bad for the family of the hostage because they really fought tooth and nail to get information, to get more info on this case. And, you know, I really wish there was something that we could do, you know, as a people to help this family and to really look into this case and really put the pieces together. I mean, they're trying to say that it's kind of solved because they had the mastermind. They essentially put the mastermind as Marjorie, but I don't believe that it is a fully solved case because nobody was actually tried for it. You know, nobody was tried or convicted for the case, and I don't know. I guess, you know, I guess the only thing that we can take away from this case is be careful who you trust, you know, be careful who you associate with. If you feel that you're in any kind of danger at all and you feel that there is something, or, you know, just something isn't quite right, speak up, speak to someone, you know. I don't know. I don't really know what we can take away from this case, gang. I really don't. But I really, really encourage everyone to watch Evil Genius on Netflix. Because again, you can watch everything there. The facts are all there. Everything's there. I'm really sorry that I was all over the place with this story because I was struggling to find a way to bring this story together because there's so many people involved. There's so many backstories. And, you know, rest in peace to the hostage because what a shame. Like, seriously, what a shame. For this guy. I just feel so bad for him, and I really hope that the family have some form of closure. when I watch them on their interviews and stuff, like one on the TV, like kind of things that they would do where they would stand and plead to the public. Public appearances, that's the word. Fucking hell, Cammy. Public appearances. When they were doing their public appearances, I felt so bad. I felt like I just wanted to reach through the TV and cuddle these people. And it's not very often that I feel like that when it comes to public appearances, because a lot of the time, with a lot of cases that I've read about, a lot of the time the families are involved. And it's, obviously I'm not saying this family is before anybody comes for me in the comments. I am not saying that. But, you know, I try and kind of remain to have an open mind when it comes to cases and people are doing public appearances and stuff like that, because you don't really truly know, you know, like you don't really truly know the person, let's face it. There is a couple of theories online that the hostage was involved and he was part of it and he was a willing participant, and that also the other conspiracy theory is that he was indeed a hostage. I believe he was a hostage. I believe that he was taken against his will, that a device was placed on his body, and he was sent on this wild goose chase for this money to then go and find these keys that might not have even been in existence, because from what I've read and from what I've watched, the keys were actually not found. So that's my understanding. The keys weren't found. If you do have any if you guys have any comments or anything that you want to put down, and you know, your ideas and theories as to what you think happened, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'm really sorry that my first video is a bit of a long one. Again, I was just so fascinated with this case and I feel like that we need to discuss it. Rest in peace to the hostage, and also rest in peace to the hostage work colleague, because we don't truly know what happened to him either, and it's such a strange case. I really hope that you have a good day today. I hope that you definitely, you know, be safe out there, be super careful. You don't know who's around you at the end of the day. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this Get Ready With Me. I'm really sorry, my camera is really old and my lighting isn't exactly fantastic, but you know, I think I'm kind of digging this look. Don't really know. What do you think? Let me know. But yeah, if it's trash, I know it's trash. Okay, so keep your little snide comments to yourself, sir. All right, madam. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. Hopefully we can talk about something that's a little less complicated. On my luck though, I'll probably not find one, but we'll see. We'll see. I will see you guys very soon. Take care. Mwah. And I just dropped my concealer, so allow me a moment, sorry. So anyway, my headband on. because I need to